Hi, my name is Terry Wendricks, and I lead the Shopper Eyes practice here at CNR Research.
And I'm Mary McElrath, and I oversee our qualitative division.
We want to welcome you to our latest Emerge Smarter webinar. Today we'll be discussing successful omni-channel marketing and retailing by creating a seamless shopper journey. For those who are new to omni-channel, it is a term that has been coined over the last year or so to explain the evolved path to purchase through the eyes of the consumer and shopper who now have experiences across multiple channels, not just the physical store, but then also digital and mobile. The goal for a marketer or retailer is the creation of a seamless, integrated, and consistent journey for the shopper across all those channels.
Just a couple of things before we begin. You want to make sure you can hear us, so turn up the speaker volume on your computers. If you are having any trouble hearing that way, though, you can use the dial-in number that would be in your Microsoft Outlook invite to this GoToMeeting. Also, we will be accepting questions throughout the presentation, so feel free to email those in or use the chat function on the webinar, and then we'll have some time at the end to answer a few. And lastly, if you have some reason you have to drop out and you aren't able to hear the whole webinar, you can contact us. Next week we will be putting a recording of this webinar up on our website. And just a little bit about CNR. We know that we have some of our clients on the line listening today. We also have some people who are new to CNR. So for those of you who are new, we were started back in the 1960s, and we are a full-service custom qualitative and quantitative house based here in Chicago, Illinois. We're about 100 people, so that includes 12 moderators and 35 quantitative analysts. Everyone else is on the operational team, so there's support staff. We do all of our own programming and data processing here in-house. We don't outsource anything. And our primary bread and butter is consumer research, but we do also have expertise in business to business, and we have expertise in special populations, including youth and family, generations, Latinos, and what we're here to talk about today, shoppers. One last little thing to toot our horn. We're very proud that for 2 years in a row now, we have been ranked the best full-service market research provider in the marketresearchcareers.com survey, and also 2 years running ranked number 2 for the qualitative research market research providers. So thank you so much to our clients who have voted for us in these surveys. We're very appreciative and very humbled to be named number 1 2 years in a row. And now I will turn it over to Terry.
CNR Research has had the Shopper Eyes practice for almost 10 years. Our mission is getting to the heart, mind, and wallets of your shoppers. So how do we do that? By helping you understand your shopper's 360 journey from the very beginning and giving you context in terms of the need or the particular shopper segment, through pre-planning, shopping, point of purchase at shelf, and then what happens after the purchase at home as well as online. We also help you by creating winning solutions by focusing on the relationship among the shopper, category, brand, and the different channels. So what should you expect over the next half hour or so? By the end of this webinar, you'll have a greater appreciation for the evolving shopper journey, a framework for understanding the shopper journey, and a unique research toolkit that will help you deepen your understanding of your shopper's journey. This will help your organization develop sound omni-channel strategies. So let's start where things began. The first formal path to purchase was introduced in 2002 by P&G's Lafley. He talked about 2 moments of truth for the consumer and what P&G focused on from a marketing perspective. The first moment of truth is when the shopper stands in front of the store shelf and decides what to buy. The second moment of truth is the experience of the product at home. What this meant was that marketing worked very simply and the path to purchase was very linear when it focused on these 2 moments of truth. So as an example, awareness was created by an ad on TV, which brought the brand into the consideration set, and maybe an FSI was in the newspaper to drive action. With FSI and grocery list in hand, the shopper went to their local grocer and walked down the category aisle and spotted the brand package because it broke through the clutter. The shopper then selected the brand in question and continued to buy the product because it satisfied her family's needs. Of course, then came the digital revolution. In 2000, 132 million Americans had internet access. That doubled to 274 million in 2011. In 2005, 6.6 billion minutes were spent on social networks and blogs. By 2011, it was 81 billion minutes. In 2007, nearly 30 million Americans accessed the mobile web. In 2011, 64% of mobile time was spent on apps. And it continues. Today, there are a number of things in test. First, on your upper left-hand corner of the slide is Google Glass. It's a wearable computer with an optical head-mounted display. The Google Glass displays information in a smartphone-like hands-free format that can communicate with the internet via voice commands. This is essentially creating a mass-market ubiquitous computer. So you have information virtually available to you 24/7. On the far right is iBeacon, created by Apple. It's a location-aware, context-aware, small wireless sensor beacon that can pinpoint your location in a store. It has the future potential of sending you via your mobile phone notifications of items around you that are on sale or items that you may be looking for. And you could even potentially pay without having to remove your wallet or card for payment. On the bottom is something that's kind of controversial right now, and it's Bitcoin, which is internet-based money with lines of computer code. Just to highlight how things have become much more complex, let's just focus on one aspect of the digital revolution, social media. And let's think about donuts. You could tweet to someone that you're eating a donut. You could share video of you eating the donut via YouTube. You could pin the recipe used to make that donut via Pinterest. And if you are on Google+, you are a Google employee who eats the donut. So what is the implication of digital revolution for path to purchase? In 2010, Google coined the term winning the zero moment of truth. So zero moment of truth refers to all the marketing stimuli to which a consumer is exposed online, at home, in transit, or near inside a store before the first moment at the shelf. And in fact, technology has become much more persuasive so that it has the potential to occur at each juncture of the shopper's path to purchase, even past purchase. Let's look a little bit more closely at the digital dynamics and the shopper journey. For example, 58% have used emails or news from brands via the internet. 81% have conducted online research prior to shopping. 67% of smartphone owners have used their smartphone in store as they were making their purchase. Social media users have discussed specific brands casually 90 times per week. And 40% of social media users purchase items that they shared or have liked. So, as highlighted by that prior example, the shopper journey has become much more complex with the digital revolution. It is no longer a simple linear path to purchase in most cases. Of course, there will be exceptions, particularly categories that are less consumer involved might use more of a linear path, or if it's a shopper segment that is less digitally knowledgeable. There's this greater complexity, which because of the increased number of potential touch points as well as two-way interactions really has changed the way of the world for marketing. The goal of marketing and retailing is now to develop a consistent, integrated, and meaningful shopping experience across the relevant channels, whether it's a physical store, website, or mobile device. To highlight an example of that, let's think about the idea of a lasting breakfast for a productive morning and how it would come to life. You can see here the number of connections with the consumer and shopper via various channels, whether it's TV, print, web films, social networking, or coupons, or in-store messaging, or event marketing outside the store. You know, it's endless. And what helps determine, in this particular case, what helps determine the right vehicles is really understanding when and where the shopper is most open to the message, but also when she's most likely to take action along her journey.
Thank you, Terry, for that great background. So as researchers, we had to take a look at, with all this great rich detail and complexity in this omnichannel space, how can we as researchers understand the shopper journey? Well, it's our point of view that in order to understand this journey holistically, you have to understand it from a 360-degree perspective by being there with the shopper and seeing what they do across channels and how and why they're using each at every stage of the journey. And this includes the context of them having a need state and who they are, their pre-planning and how they're influenced to choose a channel or to select a plan to have a product, the shopping environment itself broadly, whether that's a digital space or a physical brick and mortar space, and then what's happening at that point of purchase, what's going on at shelf with them. And then, of course, at the end, post-purchase, what happens when they no longer are a shopper, they become a consumer, and what is their experience with the product and their intentions for when this cycle starts again. So to form this deep understanding, we find that we really have to use in-the-moment tools and be there at each of those times, no matter when it is or where it is. So we have to journey across time and space with our consumers, and those can be digital spaces or physical spaces and any time of day. And we use a lot of methods. What we're talking about today is really mostly digital, but there's still a lot of old school methods that we use too, and we'll reference some of those as well. So here's some examples. I'll walk you through each phase of the shopper journey. When we look at the context, this is where we're thinking about who is the shopper? What need states do they have? What are they being triggered with? And what makes them start to consider having a purchase cycle? So for example, the picture that you're seeing here, this is a still of a webcam interview. So for this case, we were interested in the foundational needs around financial services for college students. So we wanted to reach people all over the country in their environments, in this case, in a dorm room. And we wanted to find out what were the influences. Well, the gentleman on the right, his roommate kept walking into the room and interrupting the interview, which told us a lot about the relationships in his lives and the kind of influences that he might have. Another way that we can gather information online during the contextual stage is an online journal. And we find this is really useful for purchases or actions that don't take place every day. So if we're trying to find a need state, let's say for dining out at a quick serve restaurant or cleaning, we like to use online journals. So we can get the discussion. What you see here is a moderated discussion, and respondents can see what other people have said and build on what others have said, much as we would do in a focus group. But then they can also upload individual images across time. This really helps with client engagement. We find that when we do digital research, one of the biggest stumbling blocks is just having the team have enough engagement to get really involved and internalize the insights that we're revealing. And that's because when something is open 24/7, there's always going to be another top priority. It's not like when you're on a shop along or when you're in the back room at a focus group and you're forced to focus. So what we can do is in these online journals, look at the respondents individually. So when we're looking at separate respondents, it makes it much easier to follow that contextual journey with that shopper and build empathy for a single person. Another tool that we love to use in the digital space is an online collage. This is a great tool for talking about the context of a shopper's journey. They can tell us about their moods, and we can interpret so much about their need states. This is an example of a collage that was created using C&R's proprietary collaging tool. It's got drag and drops. We can either curate a list of photos that people can choose from, or we can allow them to upload things from anywhere on the internet so they can express what they're thinking and feeling. In this case, this person wanted to be feeling free, but they were really kind of feeling locked down and chained up, and they were about to blast, like the soda can that has been already shaken up. And this is a really simple tool. You'll see here the user interface where they can select the pictures that they want, add URLs and words to tell us what their need states are before they're planning their shopping trip. Then we move to the second stage, the pre-plan. So we really want to find out here, how are they being influenced before they go on their shopper journey? So one thing that we have done, we call these surf-alongs. So this software allows us to look at the consumer there on the right, and what you see on the left is the page that he's viewing on his computer. So we can follow them along in the moment when they're reviewing websites or researching a product or looking for advice from others, perhaps on social media. And we can see which reviews they're finding most useful and talk to him as he's reviewing these things to see what his experience is during the pre-plan. Another tool that we find very useful at this stage is social media listening. For some of our clients, especially when it's a considered purchase, a consumer durable good, or a time when people are in a transition in their lives. So let's say, for example, there's some new healthcare legislation looming. We did some social media analysis for one of our clients to help them understand what's the chatter, what are people talking about. Another great time to use the social media listening tools are when people are in a transition in their lives and open to influence. So if they've just gotten married, or if they're planning to have their first child, or if they're shopping for a college. These are great times for us to use our web analytics tools to help supplement some of the other research projects we might be doing to look at pre-planning. The other thing they're doing at this time is making lists. What you're looking at is a picture of penguins, but this could be a circular, and we know these are very influential in how people decide what channels they're going to shop and what products to buy. So this tool allows us on a tablet or on a computer screen to mark it up, and they can indicate what they find really most motivating, anything that's a turnoff for them, and help us understand what's going to compel them to come to your store and buy your product. On the right, what you're seeing is a shared Google list. So this came about because I was doing some ethnographies recently with a family where the husband and wife had a shared list on Google of all the groceries that they needed. So if the wife were to stop into the store on the way home from work and pick up a few things, she would cross those off her list so her husband didn't duplicate the efforts next time he stopped in the store. So they both had access to it and could add or delete things as needed. Well, the brilliance in that is that it's super easy to create one of these with a respondent. So we can look at, they can share the list to us. We can see what are they adding, what are they taking away, how are those items grouped together, and how does that influence where they're shopping, with what kind of frequency, and what they're buying. Then we get them in the store, and we like to get a holistic understanding of what's going on in that environment. So how clean is the store? How safe do they feel? How are they being treated by the employees? And what is their mood? So this is a great app that we like to use. It's called PicCollage. There's other similar ones too. It's a free app. Respondents can take photos, or they can select from pictures that we give them access to, and arrange them to tell us, what is the mood of this experience, and how does that impact their willingness to buy, the aisles that they go down, and eventually the shelf that they end up at. So then we get them to the shelf. So this is where the rubber hits the road. And there's a couple of things that we've been doing here. Terry mentioned Google Glass earlier, so we have these, and for a couple of recent projects, we've been using them to capture this in-the-moment experience. And normally when we do a physical shop along with someone, we don't record in the stores, even if the retailer is the client. It's just too obtrusive and it distracts other shoppers. But with Google Glass, it's relatively much less obtrusive, so the moderator can accompany the respondent down the aisles, ask questions to them, and record it for future reference. Alternatively, we can have the respondent wear the Google Glass. The moderator can be, well, in their office, frankly, or they can be in a car out in the parking lot and ask questions through a Google Hangout as they're seeing what the respondent sees through the Google Glass. So that's really exciting. Another thing that we're very proud of and very excited about is our proprietary app from C&R Research. This gathers quantitative and qualitative data and is very useful at shelf. So what we can do with this is we can push survey questions to people. We can allow them to upload photos or videos of really anything influential at the shelf. So that could be point-of-sale displays, competitive products, any kind of packaging or tags, really anything that's going to influence their purchase. That those can be qualitative or quantitative. We also have community forums here, so if they wanted to start their own discussion with someone while they're at the shelf, they certainly could do that as well. Then there's the final stage of the shopper journey, and this is where the shopper becomes a consumer. And they're reacting to the product, and they're thinking about their future intentions for the product. Are they going to evangelize about it somewhere? And how is it going to impact their needs the next time they're going to have a need state and a trigger to make a purchase? So again here, we can ask all kinds of traditional qualitative and quantitative questions using lots of traditional methods, and we can get some really good functional and practical reactions to the products. But it's ever so much fun to use some of the digital applications that are available to us to let the consumers react in a more creative and abstract way. So a couple of examples we have up here. On the left is Quickie. It is a video collage tool. There are other similar ones, Animoto or Vine you might have heard of. And this allows respondents to piece together bits of videos. This could be how I use the product. It could be a music video of how this product makes me feel. It could be a commercial for the product, and upload it to us. What you see on the right is Bitstrip. This is an app that you use through Facebook where this is really good for people who maybe don't think, respondents who don't think of themselves as so creative and need help drawing. So we can post up a creative, cute picture like this with a question to them, and then they post a comic back to us. And they have lots of backgrounds and things to choose from to help them if they're not feeling their most creative. Another way that we can capture reactions during the evaluation stage is through perceptual mapping. This is something that we would do in a focus group, but we're able to do it digitally now as well. And we can assign whatever values we need to the axes on the perceptual map. For example, let's say we did a deprivation and inundation study, and we want people to compare their reactions to their old product that they used to use and the few new products that we've had them try. So we might set the axes to, one of them might be ranging from it's just for me to it's for everyone in the family. The other axis might be it's a really pleasant experience to a really unpleasant experience, and have them plot each brand on that map. So those are some of the things we like to do along the way, and of course I've spoken mostly about qualitative methods because that's my bias. I'm a qualitative researcher, but of course we understand that at some point you need to quantify these results, and that's to help set business priorities and strategies within your organization, as well as to understand differences across the shopper journey by categories and possibly by consumer segments. And so when we do quant, the principles that we discussed at the beginning are still important. You know, it's really important to cover the whole 360 degrees of the journey in the survey. We also like to tie people down to either their last purchase or their next purchase so that it's freshest in their minds. And we also, with quantitative, can leverage lots of multiple methods such as mobile.
So, in summary, in order to succeed, you need to develop an omni-channel strategy, is what consumers now and in the future will come to expect. And you need to ground that strategy in a deep understanding of your shopper's journey.
In addition, it's important to consider the methods that you're using and to use them methods that are in the moment at each stage of the journey, whatever time and space your shopper is in, and choosing multiple methods to really holistically get a thorough picture of what's going on. And finally, we're continuing to innovate and evolve and head on into the future. So what you see up here right now is contact information for both Terry and myself. Please keep your questions coming in. We do have a few. And while we're going through those, I just wanted to give a shout out to our next webinar. In March, we will be reprising one that we did in the fall called Hispanics and the Holidays. It was very popular. That talked about fall and winter holidays. We're going to do one in March about spring holidays. So this will be all about Hispanics and how they celebrate and shop for Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, 4th of July, as well as World Cup, which certainly is a holiday as well. So keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation to that. Okay, and in the meantime, have we got some questions, Terry?
Yes, we have. Mary, here's one for you. What should I do on a limited budget?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, what we've talked about today are pretty elaborate designs that cover every single stage of the journey, but we recognize that everybody doesn't always have the feasibility to budget for long-term, ongoing, digital programs of research with lots of touch points, touching every stage of the journey. So it's really a question of looking at your team's strategy for the next year and how they're going to devote resources. So it might be something as simple as looking at messaging and communication, or it could be as lofty as a need state evaluation if it's been a while since your brand has looked at who their consumer is and what their need states are. So whichever phase of the shopper journey your team is focusing on for the next year, we've got resources that can help you do it in a smart and effective way.
Okay, I'll take the next one. Where do you think the biggest changes in the journey will be in the future? I really think that mobile and how you can continue to, how some of the apps and the capabilities of mobile devices evolve is really going to be the continuous change in the journey in the future. And I think there's also some consumer and shopper dynamics that gravitate that, make it more conducive to using mobile more and more as capabilities build. Because if you think about it, most people who have a iPhone or smartphone or what have you usually have that phone with them at all times. And as part of that, there will be downtime throughout the day, which would naturally lead people to go to their phone. And whether it's to, search some information or maybe post something or, tweet, I just think that's really where there's going to be a lot of opportunity, not only from the shopper journey, but also from a research perspective.
All right. Oh, here's another one. Since I mentioned the upcoming Hispanic webinar, we got a question about my team's initiative this year is heavily Hispanic focused, and can we use these digital methods with Hispanics, specifically in Spanish? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Well, I mean, we've all seen the Pew data that shows that ethnic minority populations are more likely than Gen Pop to use their mobile devices as opposed to computers to access digital content. So the platform providers that we partner with are generally all available via mobile, and they're all available in Spanish and English. So a lot of times we'll run parallel platforms. We'll do, say, a Gen Pop sample, maybe a bicultural Hispanic sample in English, and an unacculturated Hispanic sample in Spanish. So it's really effective with the Hispanic marketplace. And I should mention too that we do have our Latinoized division here. So we have Spanish language and English language moderators and cultural experts to help analyze that data.
Okay, we have one last question. It seems you are talking a lot about behavior. What about motivators? Yeah, the core premise in our philosophy is that as you look at the shopper journey, you not only need to understand the what, so what behavior they are doing, but also understanding the why and what's driving that. So that's critical in our opinion. And in fact, we are actually doing some proprietary research as we speak, to really understand from the mom-kid dynamic and really understand some of the emotional drivers for mom and how that impacts each of the steps along the shopper journey. And we should actually be sharing, be able to share some of that information in the next couple of months with you. So stay tuned.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Wonderful rest of your week.